Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below.
Greetings once again, Pokemaniacs. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with more of the Pokemon Adventures manga, the Emerald story arc, where previously Emerald has taken on the challenge of the Battle Frontier, taking down the Frontier Brains Noland and then later Lucy. All the while, Todd Snap investigating Emerald, trying to find out a bit more about this mysterious child. It's later revealed to Todd that Emerald somehow, for some reason, is working with Latios and Latias, these legendary Pokemon. And there's something about someone going around riling up some of the Pokemon in the Battle Frontier, trying to cause a stir and panic. One such incident causes Nolan to investigate some of his rental Pokemon, only for him to be knocked out by a mysterious man in armor. This armored man sees that Emerald is trying to subdue some of his attempts to cause panic and pandemonium, and so he knows that Emerald must be dealt with. The Frontiers congregate about what happened to Nolan, and because of the way that Emerald entered the proceedings of the Battle Frontier, they suspect him and confront him. And so Emerald has no choice, although he's all too happy to do it, but to reveal why he has come to the Battle Frontier in the first place. Apparently the same reason as the man in armor, Jirachi, the witch Pokemon, who wakes up every, 1,000 years? 100 years? I don't remember. Regardless, I have my suspicions about why Emerald might be after this, especially considering he's working with Crystal, one of our previous protagonists, who has also been supplying Pokemon to Emerald at his request. But I'm curious if I'm right. I feel like I am. So let's see, shall we? Alright, let's kick it off with Chapter 314, a sketchy smattering of Smeargle. Alliteration. Alright, we pick up with Emerald saying, okay, as he leaps into the water. Oh, I didn't know that it was multifunctional. His little platforms create those kind of water skimmer shoes, and then enter Latios and Latias with a little harness, and Emerald uses his extendo hands to grab onto the little harness between the two, and they take off. And we see the Frontier Brains following behind him as Emerald shouts, "Hurry up, you guys, follow me!" As we see Todd, Spencer, and Brandon on a Lapras to figure out who was all there, Lucy and Annabelle on Lucy's Milotic, and Tucker and Greta on Tucker Salamence. I think the Lapras belongs to Spencer? I think so. Gotta get my faves in there. Salamence. Alright. I guess he's filling them all in on everything. Oh, Emerald doesn't notice when they go over a waterfall and he ends up falling in. The Latias saving him, as everyone else makes their way gently down the waterfall, or as gently as could be. Todd's narration says, "I'm currently out at sea, with the Frontier Brains and Emerald leading us who knows where." We have a flashback to Emerald's explanation to the Todd and the Frontier Brain. He shows them Jirachi's Pokedex information, saying, "Take a look at this. The mythical Pokemon Jirachi. It appeared above the pyramid a little while ago." Annabelle questions, "The mythical Pokemon Jirachi?" Some of the Frontier Brains end up enraged. Tucker shouting, "What?" Brandon saying, "I've never heard of that Pokemon." While Greta saying, "You're lying again." And Annabelle tells him, "Wait, I've heard of it before." "Jirachi, huh?" Tucker, Brandon, and Greta question, "You know of it, Annabelle?" Annabelle says, "Yes. It's an extremely rare Pokemon who only awakens every 1,000 years." I mean, give all things considered, at least one of them would have heard about it. Yeah, 1,000 years it awakens. Emerald says, "That's the one. Jirachi is a wish Pokemon. It's said that Jirachi will grant any wish to whoever captures it." Tucker says, "Any wish? That's got to be just a legend." But Spencer smacks him on the back of his head saying, "Quiet, Tucker. This is Annabelle you're talking to." And Tucker actually says, "Sorry, Annabelle. Sorry, Spencer." He's a lot more polite with people he actually respect. Brenda says, "I did see something weird shining above the pyramid just now, but even if there were eyewitnesses to verify its power, They wouldn't be alive today if it only wakes up every 1,000 years. Annabelle turns to him saying, right, it's only appeared in legends. No one dreamed it actually existed. Greta says, but if Emerald is telling the truth, then this Pokemon is real. And Emerald questions, you still don't trust me? But Annabelle says, no, I trust you. After all, that device has Jirachi's data in it. Your Pokédex, I mean. The Pokédex automatically records the data of any Pokemon you meet or capture, doesn't it? Emerald pauses for a moment saying, that's right. Like he's surprised that she knows about that. Plus, the Pokédex has a tracking function to locate the whereabouts and territory of a Pokemon you've met. It makes a lot of things easier if you're dealing with an ordinary Pokemon. But the tracking function doesn't work on mythical Pokemon like Jirachi. Todd questions, so how are you going to find it? Emerald looks off in the distance saying, well, it looked like it disappeared, but actually it just fell, like a shooting star. Oh, he flashed back to when he was fighting Brandon. He points to the distance saying, in that direction. Emerald then runs off saying, I have to capture it before it disappears again. Catch you later. But Tucker, having a salamence bite Emerald on the butt, says, hold it. Then what? You mean the real reason you're here is to capture Jirachi, not to battle at the battle frontier? Emerald says, I didn't say that, did I? Challenging the battle frontier is something I enjoy as a hobby, but capturing Jirachi is my mission. All of them seem a little perplexed by this. Emerald says, they just happen to coincide. Todd questions, to coincide? Emerald says, yeah. You've been talking about how Jirachi wakes up once every 1,000 years, but to be exact, Jirachi wakes up once every 1,000 years for 7 days. Todd questions, what, you mean? Emerald says, that's right. Jirachi's 7 days and the 7 days of the Battle Frontier opening ceremony overlap. I had no choice but to do both of them at once, right? But Tucker says, oh, that's enough. We're searching for Nolan's attacker now. This mythical whatchamacallit Pokemon has nothing to do with that. But Greta says, you're wrong, Tucker. It makes perfect sense now. Tucker questions, what does? Greta says, a legendary Pokemon who makes any wish come true? If that Pokemon awoke and was flying around the Battle Frontier during the opening ceremony, then it wouldn't be surprising at all that some intruder entered the Battle Frontier in hopes of capturing it. I think that's Emerald? He says, right, exactly, you're smarter than you look. And Greta bops him on the head, saying, don't be so fresh. You still haven't proven that you're not that intruder, Emerald. Emerald, rubbing his head, says, how can I get you to believe me? How about if you monitor me continually from now on? Cut to present day, with Todd's narration saying, and so, the day after the challenge at the pyramid, all the Frontier brains, except Nolan of course, accompanied Emerald on his search for Jirachi. As they make their way, Emerald says, should be somewhere around here. Ah, I bet Jirachi's in there. Latios, stop. Oh, Annabelle and the Frontier brains seem to be a bit taken aback. I mean, he is in command of 2 legendary Pokemon. Then again, a lot of you guys are, oddly enough. As Annabelle says, he has total control over Latios and Latias. The rest is unbelievable. You have to keep an eye on this boy. Todd questions, what's this? Well, Spencer says, Artisan Cave. Todd says, I had no idea there was a place like this in the Battle Frontier, but Emerald makes his way in. Well, Todd shocked, saying, hey, you're going in? Emerald says, I don't have any time to waste. I'm thinking about challenging one of their facilities after this. Well, Todd questions, what? Greta questions, the mythical Pokemon. It won't be that easy to catch, will it? Spencer says, I don't know. But one thing I do know is that the Artisan Cave is no easy place to get through. After all, oh god, it's a horde of Smeargle! This cave has a reputation as the lair of a pack of Smeargle who attack any and all intruder. He's a roving band of Smeargle. Smeargle then all lunge for our heroes. Todd says, here they come! But Emerald just leaps over them, saying, I'm not going to fight them. I just want to get through. This cave is one piece, that's all. Todd sees this and says, why doesn't Emerald use his gadget? That mud shooting device that calms Pokemon down. But then Todd remembers Emerald's words. I don't like Pokemon. I like Pokemon battle. And Todd thinks to himself, I think I'm finally beginning to understand what he meant by that. He said he likes Pokemon battles, but not Pokemon. But he didn't mean he likes every type of Pokemon battle. The Pokemon who appear in these battle facilities, the Pokemon used by the virtual trainers, and the Pokemon used by the Frontier Brain. Emerald likes to fight within a designated set of rules. He only likes Pokemon battles which are a sport. I get it. The only time he resorts to using that gadget is when a Pokemon has turned violent, or when the rules have been broken and the Pokemon battle can't continue. That's why he isn't using it now. The wild Smeargle attacking us, but they're doing it out of instinct, not because they're being controlled by someone else. And as Emerald dodges the Smeargle, he tells them, I won't fight you no matter how long you attack me. I'm not interested in field battles against wild Pokemon. Shoot, that's the kind of mindset that never gets you any XP. Then again, taking on trainers can really level you up, but even still. Clad says, he's moved so far into the cave already that the Frontier Brains have lost him. But I want a picture of Emerald capturing the mythical Pokemon for the newspaper, so I have to catch up with him somehow. Well, it's all or nothing then. I'll slide along this cave wall until then. But as Todd is making his way against the wall, a Smeargle goes for him only for it to be batted away. As Todd turns, questioning, huh? Oh, it's Dusclops and Sudowoodo? What? Okay, Dusclops. Oh, it's those same ones? Todd says, these two? The Sudowoodo I accidentally poured water on, and the Dusclops Emerald met in room 134 at the battle pipe. But I thought Emerald released you both back into the wild. Are you here because you feel indebted to him? And they nod. Huh. As everyone catches up, Emerald said, what took you so long? Aren't you supposed to be keeping an eye on me? I found Jirachi. And they stand before a shining Jirachi, who wakes on up and unwraps itself, and it has a big old cute smile. Todd says, it's shining so brightly. While Brendan says, so that's the wish Pokemon Jirachi. Emerald says, okay, will do. And he stomps his foot, and Pokeballs come out of it. He lines them all up, saying Netball, Dive Ball, Nest Ball, Repeat Ball, Timer Ball, Luxury Ball, Premier Ball. Which one should I use, Crystal? He asks on his Pokegear. Todd thinks to himself, who is he talking to? As he turns off his Pokegear and it retracts into his sleeve, he says, okay, I decided which ball to use. Here he goes, and he goes to kick it. Did Crystal teach him? Suddenly, there's a clanging sound, like metal footsteps approaching. Tucker turns to Greta, questioning, what's that sound? And approaches a lass of shadow, looming in the distance. He's here. Now it's chapter 315. Skirting around Surskit, the armor-clad man approaches Jirachi, as well as the Frontier Brains Emerald and Todd, as he says, finally found you. As everyone reacts in shock, the armor man says, so this is Jirachi, the star that will make my wish come true. Come to me. Come to Guile. Todd questions, Guile? Emerald, who the heck is that guy? Do you know him? Emerald says, I know him. Oh, he's the bad guy who's after Jirachi. I won't let him catch it, because if he catches Jirachi, I'll lose my job. And he kicks a Pokeball. As the Pokeball approaches Jirachi, it's cut in half. Much to Emerald and Todd's shock, you see Guile with a sword. As Guile says, Jirachi is mine. Emerald says, He gets on his Pokegear saying, Crystal? Emerald here. I found Jirachi and tried to catch her. But there's trouble. Some weird guy dressed like a knight who calls himself Guile showed up claiming Jirachi belongs to him. Crystal says, that's no surprise. I was expecting that. Emerald tells her, he sliced my timer ball in two. Crystal tells him, calm down, Emerald. Remember, you're a Pokedex holder. You should expect to meet other trainers who are out to capture a Pokemon before you. Listen to me, though. You mustn't fight him. Really? You have to focus on capturing Jirachi. Easier said than done. As Guile lunges towards Emerald with his sword, and as he swings, he says, Jirachi is mine. Ooh! And he slices through Emerald's mechanical hand. And Emerald then grabs it in order to keep talking on the Pokegear, saying, I know, Crystal. I don't fight. I only battle. Oh. Jirachi then goes to retreat. And Emerald gets chasing. I'm going after Jirachi now. Jirachi! Oh, whoa! What the heck? Guile says, not so fast, as he opens up his breastplate, revealing a horde of Pokeballs. And out of those Pokeballs, a horde of Pokemon. Togetic, Skarmory, Lumeyes, Sableye, a whole bunch. As one of the balls roll towards Greta, she says, this is, but as Emerald's giving chase, with the horde of Pokemon falling behind him, Crystal says on the Pokegear, wait, Emerald, I sent you Monchan and Boney for the battle pyramid. Do you still have them with you? They're real powerful. I can see why they're on your team, Crystal. Oh, Emerald says, they're real powerful. I see why they're on your team, Crystal. Crystal says, they can be useful when capturing a Pokemon as well. Look at your Pokedex. Monchan can attack using Mach Punch, and Boney and use False Swipe. Use those two first to stop Jirachi. Emerald says, okay. But suddenly he's yanked on by his sleeve by Greta, as Emerald tells her, hey, don't fool. Greta says, are you kidding me? What's all this about not fighting and focusing on capturing that Pokemon? Where's your fighting spirit? Look, this is a Pokeball that Armored Man was using. It has the Battle Factory logo on it, and those are the rental Pokemon Nolan was taking care of. That guy, Guile, is the one who attacked Nolan. We all worked so hard together to create a successful battle frontier. Nolan still hasn't regained consciousness, and the person who hurt him is standing right in front of us. That is far more important than this mythical Pokemon to us. It might be to you, but it's not to him. I'm sorry to say. Oh, Emerald doesn't respond, and Greta says, so I'm going to fight him. I'm going to defeat Guile and avenge Nolan. And as she leaps into the fray, the others say, yeah, that's right. Tucker says, behold the tactics of the Frontier Brain. Brandon says, we are the brave trainers of the battle frontier. Spencer says, and with a righteous spirit we shall. Lucy says, tear that creepy armor off you. Let's see if you're lucky enough to escape our wrath. Tucker tells his Salamence to use Fire Blast. Brendan tells his Regice to use Blizzard. Spencer tells his Crobat to use Air Cutter. And Lucy tells Seviper to use Sludge Bomb. And Seviper. All the attacks collide on the Armored Man, which should kill him. And as Todd watches, we see through the midst of the attack, he still stands, much to Todd's shock. And with a swing of the Armored Man's sword, whoa! He sends everyone, including their Pokemon, flying. Dang, what power. Brandon, Tucker, Spencer, Lucy, they all hit the ground hard. And as Todd flops on the floor, he says, that armor, all of them attacking at once, didn't leave so much as a scratch on it. And he gathered all the energy of that attack and reflected it back at the... so he channeled the power of the attack. Dang. As Greta goes rushing in... with her Umbreon, Guile tells his Pokemon, go. Well, it's stolen Pokemon. Greta tells Umbreon to use Double T, which creates a horde of Umbreon, all going up against the various Pokemon. Kind of looks like a Shadow Clone Jutsu went off. As the battle rages on, Emerald talks on his Pokegear saying, are you sure about this, Crystal? Things are starting to get a bit out of hand here. Crystal tells him, just focus on Jirachi. Really? Oh no. Emerald says, just focus on Jirachi? Really? Crystal says, yes. Let me remind you, your mission is to capture Jirachi. Over and out. And from behind Emerald, Annabelle says, impressively calm. Whoever is giving you these orders is very professional. It's gotta be to save Red and the others. Crystal wouldn't kind of dismiss a situation like this if other lives weren't at stake. Annabelle says, if we allow our emotions to take hold of us and to lose our focus, the enemy will be more likely to win and capture Jirachi. It's more than obvious what the outcome would be if a criminal like that got his hands on the Pokemon. Who can make any wish come true? In terms of controlling our emotions, you Frontier Brains have a lot to learn. Let's divide up our roles. You go after Jirachi while I face that Armored Man, she says, bringing out Raikou. She turns to Emerald saying, how's that sound? Emerald says, perfect. God, it is still so weird how much she is just like her older counterpart in the game. The Master says, let's go, as he reaches out for Jirachi. But Annabelle, riding on Raikou with Emerald, says, stop. Gaia, was it? I am Annabelle, Salon Maiden Annabelle of the Battle Tower, and the head of the Frontier Brain, and I'm going to stop you. Oh, okay. And Annabelle ready to throw down. Another thing that it really piques my interest is the fact that there's always kind of a leader of each kind of group of gym leaders or the like. For the Kanto gym leaders, that ended up being Erica, which you don't really see reflected in the games or any kind of animation. For Johto, it ended up being technically Price. Well, Price was given the most relevance out of the Johto gym leaders. And then next up would probably be Faulkner, which is not reflected anywhere else. For Hoenn, it ended up being Wallace, though mostly Winona because of a lot of circumstances. Wallace's importance is obvious because he ends up becoming the champion. But Winona, that kind of comes out of nowhere as well. Maybe it's something to do with some kind of character information because certain characters might seem more studious or serious-minded, something along those lines. But the situation with Annabelle stands out the most because it's Annabelle who ends up going on to actually be a more significant character in the game, at least in terms of plot. Again, I keep talking about Sun and Moon, but I can't overstate it enough. It is shocking how Annabelle plots that role so easily a decade before it ever happened. You can see that trajectory of this Annabelle becoming that Annabelle, and it's just so surreal. And I would love to know what the author's thoughts about that were when we got to that point. Was he like, it's kind of shocking that it ended up playing out that way? Did it actually end up influencing the games to any degree? I'm so curious about all of that. I get it. Fun coincidences happen, but dang. Especially as someone who's seen plenty of long-running series, I've seen coincidences like that happen in Naruto, Fairy Tail, One Piece, even Bleach to a certain degree, where some things just kind of line up kind of interestingly. But more often than not, you get a lot of contradictions, like what I said with a lot of the gym leaders, and who ends up being the leader of the gym leaders, so to speak. But Annabelle's just so dead on, it's really throwing me, and I just keep harping on it. Regardless, we're in chapter 316, skirting around Surskit, part 2. Okay. As Annabelle and Emerald riding on Raikou go lunge towards Guile, Annabelle says, "I am Annabelle, the Lawn Maiden Annabelle of the Battle Tower, the head of the Frontier Brains, and I am going to stop you." Todd says, "Annabelle is trying to stop Guile." Very astute of you, Todd. Annabelle has Raikou use Thunder Shock, and the thunder starts to wrap around Guile, almost kind of imprisoning him. As Raikou lands, Annabelle says, "Thunder Shock, that's the weakest electric type move, but it can be easily controlled because it's not that powerful, so I can use it to create an electrical cage to stop you from moving." That's how you know it's a manga. I can't really tell what I'm seeing here. Is Guile in that one panel trying to reach out and touch the electric cage? Annabelle says, "Don't move if you don't want to be electrified." And now, a thundercloud starts to form out of Raikou's mane. Todd questions, "Is that a rain cloud?" Annabelle turns to him saying, "Exactly. A lot of moves that make use of the weather can't be deployed unless the conditions are just right. Most Pokemon can't use thunder unless there's a rain cloud in the sky." Which, that's not how that usually works. Most Pokemon find a way, but whatever. But this Pokemon is different. It supplies its own rain cloud. Whether I'm outside or in a cave, makes no difference. As she brings down the thunder right before Guile. Guile sees the smoking crater that could be him as he says, "What a powerful attack. What is that Pokemon?" Annabelle says, "You're not familiar with it. It's the Thunder Pokemon Raikou, a legendary Pokemon I found in the Johto region." Todd says, "Wow. She brought Guile to a complete halt. How is it that her moves are so powerful?" Annabelle eyes Todd, saying, "No reason. Powerful people are just that powerful. Powerful people are just that powerful. I have talent." Oh, dang. Don't hurt yourself patting yourself on the back too hard, Annabelle. She tells Emerald, "Now, Emerald." Okay, Emerald says, "Okay, this is my chance to get Jirachi." And he brings out crystals, Hitmonchan and Cubone. Todd says, "Hitmonchan and Cubone? those are the Pokemon Emerald used at the Battle Pyramid. Emerald says, show me what you got that makes you capture specialist. Stop Jirachi without harming it. He tells Hitmonchan to use Mach Punch, which starts to throw Jirachi off guard. And then we see Cubone. The heck? A 3-sectioned bone staff? What the heck? Todd says that it looks like a bone. What's it going to do with that? And Cubone starts swinging around the bone and chucks it and manages to wrap up Jirachi with it. That's wild. Todd says, you did it. Your Pokemon stopped Jirachi without harming it, just like you told them to. And now, Emerald says, right. Not just to place Jirachi in a Pokeball. I thought it would be hard to capture because it's a mythical Pokemon. I figured it would take a long time. That's why I chose the Timer Ball for the job. Oh, and he stomps down his platform heel, and brings out a Timer Ball. But as the Timer Ball comes out, he says, but it looks like it doesn't matter what ball I use. I want it to be friendly towards me after I catch it, though, so I'll go with a luxury ball. And he kicks the ball at Jirachi. So weird to see him kicking the Pokeballs. Emerald says the best place to aim is where the Pokemon's power gathers. And for Jirachi, it looks like that's the line on its stomach. Oh, they don't know what the line on the stomach is. Oh, what the heck? Oh, okay, now, for a second I thought Jirachi was like unleashing some kind of attack to knock back the Pokeball, but no, Jirachi gets hit and sucked into the luxury ball. Guile and the Frontier Brains look on as Brendan says, he did it. Oh, is that the end of it? We then cut back to the battle arena where Scott is telling the members of the press, I'm asking you to wait just a little longer, please. As he flies up above the crowd, he says, come on, when are you coming back? Press wants to see the Frontier Brains and the Challenger. Retta told me she wanted to be the next after the battle against Brandon. I gathered everyone in front of the battle arena. Oh well, I guess it can't be helped. After all, they are up against the mythical Pokemon Jirachi and the villain who's after it. How do you already know that? Did they contact you? Oh, and is it done? Todd says, you did it, Emerald. Annabelle stopped Guile. What a relief. We don't have to worry about him abusing Jirachi's power to make some evil wish come true anymore. But Emerald doesn't respond. Todd questions, what's wrong, Emerald? As Emerald ponders the situation, he says, strange. What's going on? Jirachi's been sucked into the ball, but the ball isn't closing. Uh-oh. Is Jirachi holding back the ball from fully closing? Todd turns saying, you mean? And Emerald says there's no other explanation. Oh, Psybeam. Surskit is using Psybeam. Emerald says, Guile, Surskit is using Psybeam to keep the ball from closing. And the ball starts to break open, and Jirachi is released, much to Emerald's shock. Suddenly, Guile takes his sword. Oh, dang. And cuts through the electric prison. Gee, sheer force of will. That's some hella good armor. What the heck? Guile says, I have had enough of your interference. Annabelle shouts, you Raikou! But as Raikou tries to go forward, Annabelle, Raikou, Emerald, and Todd all find themselves stuck in some kind of sticky trap. Annabelle looks around saying, how did all this water get here? I'm guessing Emerald says, what's this? It's sticky, I can't move. Oh, okay, we saw Surskit doing something, like drifting something before. I thought it was just wet. Ew. They say, it's from that Surskit. Surskit's sugary syrup is mixed into it. That's why it's so sticky. Ew. As Guile brandishes his sword, he says, disappear, beat it, perish. This is where you meet your end, you pitiful fools. And he sends out a powerful shockwave with one slash of his sword, freaking sending out a Getsuga. And as the power approaches Annabelle and Emerald, it's blocked by, yeah. I couldn't tell at first, but it's blocked by Sudowoodo, Sceptile, and Dusclops. Dang, man, they really are becoming ride or die for Emerald, even though he doesn't have Pokemon of his own. I guess they're going to become his team? There'd be no other reason. Man, never seen Pokemon do so much of their own volition in this series. And to a certain extent, but, all three of them doing it. Todd thinks to himself, the three Pokemon who Emerald helped earlier are protecting him? Jirachi recoils in terror as Guile glares at it. As Guile reaches out, calling out to Jirachi, Jirachi takes off. Emerald and Annabelle shout, Jirachi disappeared. Guile curses and growls to the sky, saying, Gah, I was so close. How maddening. He then turns his attention to Emerald and Annabelle, saying, fine. I still have 4 days, and now I know you lot are no match for me. Farewell, fools. The next time we meet, I, Guile Hideout, that is it. Guile is a good name, but Hideout, really? Will be the ruler of the world. He slams his sword down, and after a massive explosion, he disappears, leaving behind Emerald, Annabelle, Todd, and the other injured Frontier Brains. As the Frontier Brains make their way back, meeting up with Scott, he tells the press, "Sorry to keep you waiting, everyone. The Frontier Brains have returned." Annabelle tells Scott, "Apologies for our late arrival. We'll be happy to help out with the interviews about the battle arena. However," Scott says, "However what?" Annabelle says, "Before that, there's something I have to ask you. Did you know what was going on from the very beginning? Did you know about Jirachi and Guile, the man in the suit of armor, Mr. Scott?" And without turning to her, Scott gives a grim look to Annabelle. Again. See, I feel like I'm spot on for really just harping on Annabelle's personality because, man, Annabelle goes hard. She is not playing around here. Like, straight up, if it were to be revealed that she is part of the international police right here and now, I would just dead on believe it. I'd be like, okay, no, she's a cop. She's a friggin' cop. Because it at least made a certain degree of sense when the gym leaders were kind of treated as a kind of branch of law enforcement. But she operates so much like how Faulkner did, who, I don't believe is a police officer in the games or the anime, at least from what I can remember. But him having a more authoritative role in the manga made more sense because, again, cop. But Annabelle feels like a cop here, and the gym leaders act as a kind of law enforcement. Powerful law keepers taking on challenges and threats to their land that the normal police officers usually couldn't handle. And it makes a certain degree of sense. It really increases the amount of responsibility the gym leaders have and all that. But these Frontier Brains, it's just like, she's acting with a degree of authority that just feels beyond what we've seen with a lot of gym leaders. Maybe it's just the mindset I have of Annabelle and what she becomes later. But I don't feel like I'm wrong for really feeling like Annabelle's just feels a step above what we've seen so far with a lot of other forms of authority, because she just feels like she's just too on the ball for a normal person. Alright, last chapter of this video. Sneaky like Shedinja. And this is very public too, as Annabelle is asking, surrounded by the Frontier Brains, with the press in the background. She confronts Scott, questioning, "Did you know what was going on from the very beginning? Did you know about Jirachi and Guile, the man in the suit of armor, Mr. Scott?" And it's a good question. All this coincidentally happening on this island built around the battle tower where, mind you, these towers, these trainer towers, battle towers, just towers in general, always had these major significances. And the battle tower was, if I remember correctly, the first thing in this area, and then the battle frontier was built around it. So this being a mythical place makes a lot of sense. And maybe Scott knew about it, expecting Jirachi to show up, but also expecting someone to try to take it, someone sinister, and thus assemble the Frontier Brains as maybe a way of cutting that off? Could he be so duplicitous yet sensible? Meanwhile, the press is starting to get rowdy, saying, "Hey, the Frontier Brains haven't returned. Why haven't they shown us around the facility yet?" Annabelle, the leader of the Frontier Brains, seemed to be embroiled in some sort of serious conversation with Mr. Scott. As the Frontier Brains hear the murmuring and is going on behind them, where the press says, and the Frontier Brains are all roughed up. It looks like they've just been through a fierce battle. Something must have happened. Tucker says, "Uh-oh." An attack goes off above the press's heads. And they say, "Whoa, what?" It's Tucker the Salamence, who puts on a showy performance saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing to be concerned about. We are simply honing our Pokemon battle skills together, so as not to compromise our reputation as Frontier Brains." He got caught up in our training and lost track of time, so we haven't had a chance to freshen up yet. Please excuse our appearances. In a very showy display, he even, holds Greta in a very interesting manner, saying, "But we promise you'll be satisfied with what we've learned from our training today. And now Greta will demonstrate her skills for you as planned." I've never really found Greta all that attractive, but I gotta admit, the rip tights, I don't know. The artist just has a way of drawing women sometimes. Greta in a panic says, "That's right. Please enter the battle arena. Our challenger today is Emerald." And as the door slams open, she brings out all of her Pokemon, Shedinja, Umbreon, and Heracross. It's cool to see a Heracross. She greets the crowd saying, "I am Arena Tycoon Greta. The battle arena is held in the style of a tournament." You see Todd rushing through, but he overhears a conversation and sees Scott. Scott says Tucker and Greta have managed to distract the press, but Annabelle and Mr. Scott are. And we see Annabelle and the other Frontier Brains confronting Scott, surrounded by their Pokemon. As Todd arrives, Annabelle says, "Well, tell us." Scott says, "Hey, you think I knew all along, but pretended not to know?" He turns with a smile saying, "Well, you're absolutely right." It takes all the Frontier Brains a little bit off guard by the callous way in which he said it. He jabs at Annabelle saying, "What tipped you off, Annabelle?" Annabelle says, "I just had a hunch. No reason, really. But if I had to give you a reason, it would be the look you gave us when we told you we were going to Artisan Cave with Emerald. And when we returned all bruised and battered." Scott says, "You mean this look?" He gives a wry smile. Annabelle then shouts, "So I was right. But why would you hide this vital information from us?" And in a very serious moment, Scott says, "Isn't it obvious? Because I wanted you Frontier Brains to grow stronger." Annabelle questions, "Stronger?" Scott says, "That's right, stronger. It all began with this report." Is that a Team Rocket file? Scott tells them, "A collection of stories from witnesses of Jirachi's awakening 1,000 years ago. A detailed record of Jirachi's activities from the moment of its awakening to the moment when it fell asleep again. Details from 1,000 years ago. Wait, how long ago did Pokemon Arceus take place? Dang it, never mind. Disregard that. It was only 150 years in the past. I forgot that for a lot of Japanese technology and stuff like that. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Dang, I thought it was further in the past and all that." Scott says, "According to this record, this is the location where Jirachi was predicted to awaken next." Todd questions, "A document from 1,000 years ago?" Scott says, "That's right. A Pokemon researcher analyzed what was written here and calculated the exact date when Jirachi would wake up again. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's a world-famous authority in Pokemon research named Professor Oak." So this was all one big plan. Interesting. It was Professor Oak himself who alerted me on this situation. Wait, okay. No, this was a few months ago. The Battle Frontier was already being constructed, though. So it was more of a warning than him actually having real foresight into this. He cut back to Professor Oak contacting Scott. Weird, it's not given the black border like a usual flashback is, though. Oak contacts Scott saying, "You must be Scott. Point 9214 in the Hoenn region, the location where you are building your Battle Frontier, is the very spot where the mythical Pokemon Jirachi will reawaken." Scott questions, "The mythical Pokemon Jirachi? You mean the Wish Pokemon?" Oak says, "You know of it. I have an ancient manuscript about Jirachi." Yep, sure enough, it was stolen by Ultima from the Team Rocket base from the last arc. Ultima took a lot of stuff, like gave us information on the whereabouts of Mew, information on the whereabouts of Jirachi. She just got a whole bunch of stuff. It makes sense Team Rocket would have information on that, because who else would be looking for legendary Pokemon? Probably investigating Mew, they came upon information on Jirachi, and we're just like, okay, might want to file this away for later when we can hopefully use that later down the line. Oak says, "A woman named Ultima obtained it for me through special means." Yes, special means. Scott says, Professor Oak, what do you want with Jirachi? It's going to awaken here, right? Oak takes a moment and says, I must capture it. There is a wish I have to make come true, an impossible wish that cannot happen without the help of Jirachi. Scott says, you're free to come here and catch it. The battle frontier is open to everyone. Oak gives a sigh saying, thank you. There's one problem though. Someone else seems to be after Jirachi as well. Oh? Last night my lab was raided, and the disk containing the deciphered contents of the manuscript was stolen. Oh. Okay. Scott says, what? Oak tells him, my Pokemon tried to protect it and were badly injured in the process. Much of the report is written in an ancient alphabet, so I haven't been able to decipher it all yet. Luckily, the disc only included the parts I was able to translate so far. Unfortunately, it was enough for the intruder to learn the location and time of Jirachi's awakening. Scott says, so this thief is bound to appear at the battle frontier as well in hopes of capturing Jirachi. During the 7 days Jirachi is awake. Lucy says, so that's who that armored man was. Scott says, correct. The dates Professor Oak calculated are exactly the same dates that I had already set for the opening ceremony for the press. So it was all just one big unfortunate coincidence. Dang. But to a certain degree, it makes a little bit of sense. You know, it would just be open to the press, but he wasn't actually going to have anything else really going on. I guess he was hoping that they could just deal with things quietly behind the scenes, and then things would open as usual on the actual opening day. Wasn't really expecting all the rigmarole with Emerald to go around, but maybe he was hoping that would also act as a good distraction so that nobody would be any the wiser. But this guy's a lot tougher than you would have thought. Professor Oak was worried that the press would be in danger. Oak asked, I really think you should push back the opening of the battle frontier. Scott says, nope, the battle frontier is my dream. I will hold the ceremony and open the facility as planned. Even if someone does attack us in an attempt to capture Jirachi, I employed 7 skilled trainers called Frontier Brains. Working together, I'm sure they'll be able to drive off any enemy. But I really do feel like you should have gave them some heads up about all this, but okay. Oak says, all right then. And trust you and your Frontier Brains with a battle against the intruder. And I will choose a Pokedex holder and send him to the battle frontier to capture Jirachi. Any objections? Scott says, nope, that's fine. So you already knew about Emerald's Scott, I get it. You wanted this to be fun. You wanted them to go in without being concerned about a threat, because maybe they would want to shut it down too, yada, yada, yada. But man, Scott, you shady. There's some shady tactics. Then again, Oak sending in a young child. Then again, he doesn't want the child to really engage in any fights. He's just like, go in, capture Jirachi, get out. So, yeah, I get it. A small child would be kind of unassuming. Todd says, and that Pokédex holder is Emerald? And fair enough, Tucker gets angry saying, so, why didn't you tell us all this before? We would have been better prepared if we had known, and Nolan wouldn't have been attacked. Scott says, you think so? Let me ask you something. Would telling you earlier have enabled you to defeat this intruder? I mean, they could have been better prepared. I don't know, man. That reasoning doesn't hold water to me. Although Tucker does kind of pull back a little, saying, well, Scott tells him, even if you had known, you would have been defeated if you were weak, and even if you didn't know, you would have won if you were strong. Aren't those the principles of battle? I feel like you're talking out your ass, man. But hey, if someone in the comments can help me understand the justification for this, I'll take it. I'll take it. You give me a good enough argument, I'll take it. But Scott's looking mighty shadier than them shades he's wearing. Scott says Greta has already begun fighting Emerald. He has decided to face him after being impressed by his skills as a trainer in Artisan Cave. You see Emerald going in saying, Sceptile Leaf Blade! And it clashes with Heracross's horn. Dang, good stuff. And Heracross uses its horn to just flip up and hit Sceptile. He wanted to call it Grovyle. Sceptile springs back into action and unleashes a flurry of attacks against Heracross. And Heracross goes down. Scott smiles, saying Emerald is as strong as ever. You can tell he's serious about his battle. He's as powerful as Greta. As a matter of fact, he seems to have the upper hand at the moment. We continue to see Sceptile and Heracross clash, as Scott tells the Frontier Brains, Emerald is our first challenger, but he made it past the Battle Factory, Pike, and Pyramid. Your battles against him weren't surprise attacks. You all knew about him beforehand. Isn't that right, Brandon? Lucy? Brandon is right. Lucy says, I can't complain, Mr. Scott. It would be a lie to say that I'm not worried about Nolan, but things might have turned out differently if he were stronger. That feels a little like victim blaming, honestly. Something about this doesn't sit right with me. Including tomorrow, our enemy only has 3 days left. What will you do if you must face him again? Tucker shouts, defeat him, once and for all. Scott says exactly, but in order to do that, you must be stronger. Emerald will challenge you at the Battle Dome, Palace, and Tower, and those will all be opportunities for you to train, to become more powerful. I feel like Annabelle has the same mindset. It's just like, that's some BS, but I'll take it. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm projecting. She gives a smile saying, looks like we're the challengers now. But Mr. Scott is right. Many challengers are going to come through here once the Battle Frontier is officially opened. Let's overcome this challenge, so we'll be prepared to face them with our heads held high. And all the other Frontier Brains say, yeah. They later approach the stands overlooking Greta and Emerald's battle as Tucker and Brandon shout out, go Greta! Put everything you've got into this battle to hone your skills. Greta says, yeah, I know. Let's finish this, Heracross. Again, this story is actually making me like Greta a lot more, too. Just, I don't know. I'm not saying that I hated her before, but I was kind of indifferent to her. But this story has actually done a lot for some of the, Frontier Brains in my eyes. The only ones I were ever interested in were Brandon, Annabelle, and Lucy. But I don't know. I like what they're doing with them here. As Heracross pumps up and goes in on Sceptile, Annabelle has Heracross use Mega Horn, launching Sceptile in the air as it comes down hard. Brandon says, Greta did it! Tucker questions, she won? But he says, no, Emerald Sceptile is still standing. An announcer says both sides have taken 3 turns to attack and defend, but neither of their Pokemon have been knocked out. Therefore, the Pokemon's performance will be rated. Oh, really? Todd, as a holographic referee, comes in. Todd questions, rated? Is that how they determine the winner of the battle arena? Oh, so it's kind of like a sumo match. Okay. The announcer says the trainers will be rated for their mind, skill, and body. And the result is, the judgment is 5-1. Arena Tycoon Greta's Heracross wins. The Frontier Brains cheer. Brendan saying, you did it, Greta! Tucker says, yeah! The announcer says the battle will resume after a 5-minute interval. Todd calls out, are you alright, Emerald? Emerald says, sure. Todd says, you just battled Guile a moment ago. But Emerald says, so did Greta. Todd says, yes, that's true, but, Oh, you see Sceptile, Sudowoodo, and Dusclops all cozying up to Emerald. Todd says, Emerald, you're taking on this challenge with those 3? Emerald says, yeah, for some reason they like me. Don't have a choice. They have a high affection level, which is funny because even if Emerald doesn't really care for them like that, that means that they'll probably, be able to withstand a lot more attacks so you don't get sad. It's like, no, I'll do it. I'll do it for my trainer. I love that element. Todd says, so they really are fond of Emerald, aren't they? The announcer says, your break is over. Restarting arena battle. Okay. I guess Todd narrates. The battle here at the battle arena is a 3-on-3 knockout battle. The battle between Emerald and Arena Tycoon Greta began with Emerald Sceptile being defeated in the first round. The winner of the first round, Heracross, has now begun its second round against Dusclops, and Heracross is hit with Dusclops' psychic attack. Todd shouts, yes, you attacked its weakness. A super effective move. You can expect a good skill rating for that one. Emerald says, and that's not all. It's an attack move, so I'll get a high score for mind. And I should also get a high score for body since I inflicted a lot of damage. On the other hand, Heracross excels in fighting type moves, which has no effect on Dusclops because it's a ghost-type Pokemon, and the referee calls it. Todd says, each side has had 3 turns to attack and defend, they're going to be rated again. Oh, that's right, because any battle that doesn't end within 3 turns gets rated. The Pokemon are judged for their mind, skill, and body. Mind is judged by how much you attacked. If you defend too much, you're downgraded for not seeming serious about the battle. Skill is judged by how effective the moves you choose are, and body is judged by converting your Pokemon stamina to a numerical score and comparing its stamina at the beginning of the battle with its stamina at the end. You can't change the order of the Pokemon you picked at the beginning, but even if your opponent Pokemon is up against a disadvantaged type, you still have a chance of winning thanks to the rating stage. I wonder how the second round will turn out. The announcer says, the judgment is 4-2. Challenger Emerald's Dusclops wins. Todd shouts, yeah! Emerald's Dusclops remains in the battle. And that second Pokemon is? And Greta says, come out, Umbreon! Man, I swear, some of the poses this artist has her in, just showing off them legs. Todd says, it's her favorite Pokemon, but now the Pokemon type disadvantage has changed. Umbreon is a dark-type Pokemon, so in this round, Dusclops is at a disadvantage. Umbreon used his Feint attack against Dusclops. Emerald shouts, attack back, Dusclops! Will-O-Wisp! But Umbreon manages to dodge, and then uses Confuse Ray against Dusclops. Dusclops runs around in the confusion as Todd shouts, Dusclops is already at a disadvantage, and now it's confused as well? Greta laughs. Looks like the result is going to be obvious. There won't be a need to be a rating stage. And the announcer says, judgment is 5-1. Arena Tycoon Greta's Umbreon wins. Todd says, 3 turns is really quick. Greta's Umbreon won, so Emerald is moving on to his 3rd Pokemon. Emerald brings out Sudowoodo, but we see Umbreon seems injured. Greta questions this and says it must have gotten burned from that Will-O-Wisp attack. It's slowly healing itself with the leftovers I handed it, but Emerald says, did you think I'd let you keep the upper hand? Alright, let's finish this battle now. Low kick! And Sudowoodo does just that against Umbreon. The announcer says the judgment is 2-5. Challenger Emerald Sudowoodo wins. Todd says, okay, they each have 1 Pokemon left, and Greta's 3rd Pokemon is Shedinja? Greta wags her finger at Todd saying weak. If that's what you're thinking, you're sadly mistaken. Shedinja's ability is Wandering Guard. There are a limited number of moves you can attack it with. Emerald says, I know, but my Sudowoodo has one of those moves, Rock Slide. And Shedinja is hit harder with Rock Slide. Todd says, she chose Endure, but she'll lose points on the mind rating for using defense moves. Perez says, that's right. I'm not going to lose with a low rating. This is going to be a one-on-one, full-on battle. Solar Beam! Shedinja unleashes Solar Beam, hitting Sudowoodo hard as Todd shields himself from the blast from the attack. He then pauses for a moment, thinking, that story Scott told us just now. I can't believe Professor Oak is behind Emerald's presence here, his mission. What is this wish? What Professor Oak wants to make so badly? That would be the question if you didn't know why. But it's very obvious. Oh my god! Wait a minute! I didn't mean to have that reaction. I wasn't expecting to see them so soon. Oh my goodness! We see aboard a cruise liner where several people have congregated, including Ruby and Sapphire. Oh my god. And I guess in one part, in the hull, a box is marked fragile. Oh, the staff on board say, Honorary Captain Mr. Briny? Captain Mr. Briny. What is this? God, it's Briny in the captain's hat, and Briny just keeps upgrading his boat. Well, one sailor says, Captain, you have to wear your uniform. Man, we're keeping that running joke, huh? Briny says, statues, there's 5 of them. We're going to take them on shore tomorrow after the onboard wedding to the battle tower in the battle frontier. The staff say, statues? For what? Briny says, don't know. I was just asked to deliver them. Seafaring men don't snoop around, you know? Oh, I thought he'd know. Then again, no, he wouldn't know them. Yeah, no. And be careful, don't put a single scratch on them. That's how we professionals do it. While one of the staff keeps chasing around saying, your uniform. The other staff say, yes, sir. As we see some very familiar looking silhouettes all wrapped up in duct tape and the like. Okay, so it's just been a couple of months. Now, that still sucks to lose a couple of months, but let's face it. Some of these characters have all been taken out for at least a couple of months at some given point in this series. Silver got it twice between the time he was taken out of commission and being taken care of by Entei, and now this. And Silver, don't let this keep happening. At some point, you're going to lose a whole year of your life without realizing it. So we're getting Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Yes, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. And everything has come together. The plot just, bam, right there. And it didn't take too long to get to it. I remember Steven over on Patreon telling me that Emerald isn't quite beloved because of the way that he's introduced and how the art comes in. But I don't know. I feel like I said it before. I had a lot of faith in the writers when it came to this because I couldn't believe that they would just leave things as is. There had to be some kind of build up to something greater. So I kind of just let it be. I thought there has to be some kind of connection to everyone being petrified. We couldn't just leave that floating in the air. But I wasn't sure if it was going to be happy happenstance that we, freed the petrified Pokemon Pokedex holders, or it was a mission. Ended up being a mission, which makes a lot of sense. It really relies on a lot of things just happening to coincide, but I like that it's 2 different arcs worth of build up to get to this. Between the Ruby and Sapphire, the leftovers from the Ruby and Sapphire arc really just coming in hard for the last 2 arcs. Well, this arc and the last arc, I should say. Because, man, Hoenn just has so many reverberations throughout. From what happened in Kanto to what's happening in the Battle Frontier. Which, we're still in Hoenn. Yeah, because the Battle Frontier in the anime was in Kanto. I keep getting that mixed up. But it's interesting. And finally, you got Ruby and Sapphire as well as Emerald joining in on the team. I was wondering how we were eventually going to have everyone kind of link up for the most part. But that should be fun. And good old Mr. Briny. When you need somebody to sail you in, call in Mr. Briny. And Ultima, having played a part in it too, man, I was ready to kind of dismiss Ultima, but man, Ultima just kept coming in handy beyond the special techniques. I'm like, okay, Ultima's here as, a plot device to just have the special techniques come in. But Ultima just kept coming in clutch every single time. Every move, there's Ultima in the background doing something. Like, shoot. I love background characters like that who are always just playing a role. That's good stuff. That's good stuff to me. And I like that Oak was just on top of it. It's just like, no. We getting our people saved. We ain't leaving them at stone. After all they've done, after everything that's happened, we saving them kids. Their poor parents, though. Our kids have disappeared for, but a couple of months, that's rough, but it's not too long. My heart would break if it was a year. It just, I hate the thought of them losing out on all that time. But this Guile dude, he's too capable. Where did he get that armor? Who is this guy? Just, and what could he possibly be after for a wish? Hey, we just had Giovanni. Maybe someone from Team Rocket? I don't know. Maybe Carl working with Sham. He doesn't really use a water Pokemon. Only thing I could think of is a member of Team Aqua, maybe. Unless it's someone brand new. Because all the Frontier Brains were there. And we saw Nolan facing off with Guile, so it's not him. So this is a time where we know straight up the Frontier Brains aren't involved. Unless there's something elaborate, really elaborate going on, it's none of them. The only thing I could think of is that it's like Matt or Amber, and we don't know what happened to Maxie and Archie. That's the only thing I could think of. Like a villainous person who has water Pokemon. Because usually most dudes are on theme. That's the only thing I could really think of. Some member of Team Aqua. Unless it's just a brand new villain. And Guile High, that is his actual name, which dang. But I'm interested. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. No spoilers, please. Thanks so much for watching. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride, and I hope to see you later. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.